Obviously disappointed. You can't take any pleasure in losing a football game. I really thought that the young men did fight. I appreciate the effort that was given of not giving up and give us an opportunity in the fourth quarter. And we need to regroup, and we need to go back, and we really need to check ourselves, and we will do that as a family, and then we will come out and try to do a lot better than what we've been doing. I just thought Clayton did a nice job of coming off the bench and giving us certain things. It was actually good to see him finally get out there as a senior. It might be his last opportunity this year to play football, and hopefully he'll have more after that, but it could be his last opportunity like all the seniors in there. Right now, everybody's job is in jeopardy. If we're going to go through the tape, and if guys haven't done the type of job they need to do, then we need to start getting some other guys in there. It's not fair to keep playing the same guys if the results don't change. We thought if we ran some QB runs, maybe it would soften it up a little bit. Clayton came in and did that. We have to do some other things with him, so every time he comes in, he's not just the running quarterback that comes in. And we try to do some of those things as well. And then obviously, when Tommy got the one hit, he wanted to go back out there. But I'm like, no, you've done enough for this one. That was a really, really good shot. Okay, it was a really good shot, and like I said, those guys are like my stepsons. I mean, that was enough for me. Okay, and that was enough for me. I didn't need to see him go through that again. It was good to see Cisco out there. I thought I saw him hit some people. I really didn't know if he was going to play or not. So you can write that one down. So it was good to see him out there, and if he played the second half, that was good too. It would be fun to see if those guys their injuries reappear or if they're able to continue to stay out there, because we need both of those guys. We need as many good players as we can get. I can actually think of two teams in particular right now that we faced, and they were banged up, and they thought we might not go after certain guys, and we did, and it affected the game early. And we've got people doing the exact same thing to us, and that's the cool part of football. You get to watch a lot of tape. You get to know who's hurt, who's not hurt, if you can figure it out, and you know how to attack people. So people are doing a fantastic job. There's fantastic coaches in this conference, and we need to go back and see if we can do a better job as coaches to give our young people a better opportunity and a chance. And if you give them a chance, then you're doing your part and put them in position to make plays, and then hopefully they can make those plays and we can change the outcome.
Welcome to the Cuse Militia Podcast with those two unapologetically biased, orange-blooded homers, Sean and Joe.
What's up, Cuse Nation? Thanks for tuning into the Cuse Militia Podcast with Sean and Joe. If you like it, please share it. The universal handle for the socials is @Cuse Militia. Go there, join the militia. We are the first Syracuse sports podcast centered around giving you, the fans, a voice. So, welcome back. Happy Sunday afternoon for us. Syracuse fell to Pitt on Friday. Pitt leads the all-time series 40-32 in 3 ties. Syracuse Bullhopes, well, they're going to take a hit, having to win the next 3 out of 5. The schedule doesn't get any easier either, as we will head to Florida State next weekend to play them.
Yep.
So and we also have a couple other road games, one at Louisville and one at Duke. So, it just doesn't get any easier.
No.
But we will, we'll keep our heads up. And we'll see. Take it game by game, see what happens, right, Joe?
Yeah, that's kind of what you got to do, right?
That's it. We will get into all of that. We'll hear from you and fan feedback. But first, we got to talk about the good folks over at MyBookie. Now, whether you have been betting for a while or it's your first time, now just remember, if it is your first time, just research it, see if it's right for you. If you have been betting for a while and you know what you're getting into, head over to mybookie.ag. If you're the kind of guy or gal who likes to bet a little and win a lot, try the parlay. If you like a couple of the big games coming up this week, parlays are perfect because they let you bet on multiple games together for a much bigger payout. So, if you're going to bet this season, do the smart thing and go to mybookie.ag because no one gives you more ways to win pro football in full swing, college football in full swing. Obviously, the playoffs are coming to a close, but we got the World Series. And hockey and basketball is right around the corner. So, now's the time to get off the sidelines and get in the action. If you want to really support your team this season, don't just sit on the sidelines. Get in the game with mybookie.ag. If you want to join right now, MyBookie will double your first deposit. All you got to do is use the promo code CHAIR, CHAIR, to activate that offer. That's promo code CHAIR to double your cash on your first deposit. Visit mybookie.ag today. You play, you win, you get paid. Thank you, MyBookie. So, another game of kind of more of the same, Joe, a little bit, really, for the most part. Syracuse was down 24-6 at the half, but they actually held the Panthers to 3 points and 72 yards in the second half. 14 of those 72 were in the third quarter. DeVito, 11 for 23 for 101 yards before taking a hard lick and having Welch come in. Welch finished the game 8 of 20 for 176 yards and 2 touchdowns. One of those a 95-yard completion to Taj Harris. He rushed for 36 yards on 10 carries. That makes him Syracuse's leading rusher against Pitt, which is bad. The Orange rushed for 51 yards altogether on 34 attempts against Pitt, 1.5 yards per carry. Last week it was 1.1 yards per carry. Now that does include sacks. We sacked 9 times, but Syracuse was 109th in the country in rushing coming into that game. So obviously that's going to sink a little lower. Another negative stat, and I'm not trying to harp on the negatives here, but the third down conversion rate is 36%. That's 101st in the nation. So, but the positives, they got keeping the streak alive after recovering a muffed punt by Pitt. That extends a streak of consecutive games with a takeaway to 21, the second longest active streak with a turnover behind Mississippi State with 22. So, if you want to take some good out of it.
Should have had another one too, but
yeah, well, that's true. But
yeah.
So anyway, Joe, I mean, it was like the same thing. I feel like it's like Groundhog Day, the movie, where you just wake up and it's like the same thing over and over again. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of more of the same, right? I mean, how do you analyze this? I guess we could look. I have heard, there's. I don't think the line is getting better. They may have gotten better in a couple of games, like randomly. But to me, it just feels like you heard what Coach said. Everybody's job is in jeopardy, and at some point, Joe, you have got nothing to lose, and you try to mix it up with some other hungry guys that are sitting on the bench right now.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's probably cases where he might have thought that he could get away with maybe getting a red shirt for this guy, or we can get away with maybe using that guy, but. If this is what it's going to look like and players aren't going to get better, then you might as well replace them and at least get experience for the players that are going to be returning, and they're going to have to shore that line next year. You know what I mean?
Right.
We have, I believe, 3 players on our offensive line, or at least 2, if not 3. I don't know what the deal is with Heckle, but that are going to be gone next year. So,
I heard rumblings too about Heckle looking like. In the rumor mill. Now, take it for what it's worth, but I did read it. There's speculation that he's just going to be out for the rest of the year. It doesn't look like he has. There's no indication that he's returning anytime soon. But the good news is we saw Cisco out there. You saw Melifonwu late in the second half. So getting those guys some burn.
That's
coming
definitely
back.
That's good news, but it's not where we need the help. I mean, we
it's
need
not.
the help
You're
a little
right.
bit, but
for what it's worth.
Right. It's been frustrating, and especially, coming off of the offense we had last year and seeing the points, I think people just assumed and it got souped up and propped up by the media and just blown up by the media. And I think they just thought that it was going to be a nice little just changeover and it was going to be the same thing. But obviously DeVito didn't bring some of the same things that Dungy did, and we're having a hard time trying to, figure this thing out. And that's what happens when you have a little bit of change of the guard at the quarterback and stuff like that. And the bad thing is that every single ACC team sees this. I mean, if you're not sitting here thinking that Florida State's defensive coordinator isn't watching that tape and licking his chops, you're crazy.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
So,
Especially, they were in the same position kind of last year. Remember how bad their O-line was last year?
oh yeah,
Florida
100%.
State? Yeah.
Yeah. And
So-
it's just sometimes it's tough when the shoe's on the other foot, but it's just if you have a weakness, then sometimes that just exacerbates, and it just kind of bleeds over to other parts of the team, because when maybe the communication isn't there with running backs and tight ends and receivers, the blocking schemes get messed up, and when there's not confidence with the quarterback, or maybe the quarterback's injured and he's a little hesitant, then that hinders the whole thing. And honestly, I just think that's what it is. I think everything has just gotten really, really bad. And to be perfectly honest with you, this Clayton Welch, it was a great change of pace, but you're not seeing Tommy DeVito throw balls into the ground like he would. He doesn't have the accuracy. He hit the one deep ball, and we got lucky.
It wasn't even a deep throw, though. It was a lot of yak on that one.
I mean, it was pretty deep. I mean, he beat the guy. I mean, he threw it up. He beat the guy. But, that other drive we had, I mean, there was 3 pass interferences just from him throwing the ball up because they were trying to blitz and one-on-one coverage. And,
But Joe,
he's a bigger guy that he can move a little bit and he can take some hits. So he was able to run in. And honestly, Pittsburgh had no tape on him. So I think that was why you saw the tale of two tapes, or tale of two halves, was we got to go in the locker room and kind of, game plan a little bit better. Plus, I'm sure Pitt was trying to, they didn't have the foot on the gas, so to speak, because they already had the lead. And sometimes when you're in that position, you just want to kind of play conservatively on offense. And
they were killing clock in the second half.
Yeah. So they just didn't know what to do with Welch. But
and
I don't know.
They stuck him in there first for some some sneaky QB run stuff, but that's only going to work.
Off guard and it'll work.
Maybe twice.
It's not
going to
work out the duration of a game after seeing it on film.
No.
And that's my thing. Is I know people are calling for Clayton Welch and everything, but
do you remember last year when we made this mistake? It was a little bit more. It was a little bit more convincing last year too, I feel like. But obviously,
it's always tough when a team makes a quarterback change in the middle of the game, and there's no tape, or no one on the defense really has any game plan on the other guy, and there's a different kind of style.
It's almost like a panic moment for the defense, like, oh, geez, like everybody's just out of place and kind of just. Guessing. You got Tommy DeVito in there. You could tame him, and you're probably good. If you got good coverage.
Last year when Tommy came in, it was a better offensive line, and it was different from Dungy. It wasn't like he was in there running like Dungy. Right. But the reason why he was successful was because defense didn't game plan for him, and he made different throws that Eric Dungy didn't. That defense didn't see Dungy. Make, so therefore they weren't prepared for it.
Yeah.
Now when you talk about preparation and game and just, obviously the changeover from last year, it's going to be a different kind of offense. And obviously we've struggled to find an identity on that side of the ball. And the positive, our defense keeps us in every single game.
Yeah, you can only do so much, though, for so long, too. I mean, before they're just like, if they're not getting a ton of help, obviously, then, they're getting whooped out there. They got hands on hips.
Yeah, but when Papers first got here and Schaefer, and even before that, like when those type of games happened, like 24-6 at halftime, getting handled like that, turned into 42-10.
Sure.
Or 13 or something, you know what I mean? So, I mean, when you see an offense like this and you have struggles like this, all you can really ask for, I mean, obviously you would like to go into the end of the game, fourth quarter, second half, with a lead, obviously. But all you really want is a chance to win the game at the end of the game in the fourth quarter, whether you're losing or whether you're leading. And the last 2 games, no matter how bad our offense has played, this team has got itself in position to put themselves in that position.
They've done a great job of trying to come back and clawing their way back. And
you can argue that some of these opportunities got taken away. And you have 4 quarters to make these opportunities, and some will argue, well, you shouldn't have to get a call in the fourth quarter to get a chance to. But sometimes that's just what games come down to.
It is,
and we talked about the games in NC, the late calls in NC State that weren't called, and then you talk about that overturned fumble when we had the momentum. And I mean, it was crazy to me that thing got turned over and called on again. Like I said, I wish we were in a situation where we shouldn't have to rely on that. But at the end of the day,
but on the flip side of that, though, and you can say, there was a lot of self-inflicted wounds in that game, and you don't want to blame them, the refs, that is, for a loss, but you should let the players decide the game. And when you have that, when you look at that call, and by the way, Mike McAllister at CuseNation.com, they didn't show the video, but they explained what they saw in the video. I guess under the terms of being able to watch the video, they could not air it publicly or on social media or whatever. So take it for what it's worth. But they said that there's another angle that they didn't show on TV besides those 3 that you saw on TV that shows the ball coming loose before he's down. So regardless, you got the other 3 views that we did see, and what do you get out of those, Joe? The call on the field is basically a strip fumble with Ruff,
yep.
And you've got a Syracuse ball, and now you need indisputable evidence to overturn the call. And like you said, real quick, they overcame a lot of self-inflicted things throughout the game, and if you want to go back to that and talk about those 2, then that's fine. But with that said, they still overcame that, and they ended up with the ball in the fourth quarter with 2:44 left.
With
that's the game.
Right around like the 30-something yard line. So you have a chance to go in and, get a touchdown, maybe go for 2, go to overtime.
But I don't understand you can't blame the refs for this one call. Well, dude, the call came at the most opportune thing that could happen to Syracuse is get a turnover right there, and then they overturn it with no evidence, seemingly zero evidence, going on what they thought happened, and then Pitt keeps the ball and they run the clock out. Well, yeah, I'm gonna point a lot of fingers at the refs for that because I think it was bull. I think it was a terrible call.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's nothing shown there that showed even in the back, right? So even based upon assumption, if you thought that Ruff just ripped it out when they hit the ground, then I can understand that. But at the end of the day, the play on the field was called a fumble. And there's nothing there that proves that as soon as Ruff didn't come down behind him and slap his hand into the ball, didn't start it. Because if that's starting to come loose before his knee hits the ground, like you said, and that the article and some of the things that I've seen on social media as well have said that there's another angle out there that people have seen. It's a non-TV angle in which they said that the ball started coming loose basically as soon as Ruff came down and hit it. So
what is it? It's not a broadcast camera. It's something else?
I don't know. And I'll tell you what too. Right after they overturned it and they put the camera to that player and you saw his face, I could tell from his body language that he fumbled and he knew it.
He got away with one.
Yep.
That's really bad, man. To overturn
those refs
a call.
Were bad all night.
They were terrible. Oh my gosh, they were awful. After that, I forgot what else they called, but I just remember. You remember the third down when they couldn't figure out what down it was?
Third down, fourth down. Did they decline it? Where's the ball? Yeah, they went back. They had no idea. And then right after that, they went to commercial and they started the game. Or I think they went to commercial after Pittsburgh scored because remember we missed the kickoff.
Yeah,
there was they missed the kickoff because the refs actually started the game too fast because that's essentially the refs have to hold the game while during commercial timeouts to make sure that commercials are done. Okay, come in.
Right.
And they started the game too soon and they actually didn't get to see it. The commentator said something which, that was early in the game, but soon after that, the commentators really didn't have too much to brag about either because I thought they were pretty bad as well. So
commentators were awful.
I mean, they're arguing the body slam when our guy got body slammed, pretending that's an awful call.
That's it. Last I checked, that's a perfectly legal tackle. Really? Since when?
Since never. That's why he doesn't coach anymore.
What a moron! I mean, you got to be kidding me. It's so stupid. It's so irritating to listen to people and I love the way it was trying to.
The guy's he was a college football coach. He don't know the rules. Junior? He was a coach. You don't know the rules.
Yeah.
That's why he's in the booth.
He doesn't like to be called Mora Jr., by the way. Jim Jr.
Oh.
So
I'm sorry.
Jim Jr.
I don't care. I don't know him personally.
I'm just playing. So anyway, yeah, that was just absurd. A lot of that was absurd. And that's my point when I say, well, you can't blame the refs for the last call that was overturned. Well, no, I can because they made so many bad calls, and that one was just at the worst possible time. Now, David Hale came out with a tweet that he digs up some stats, and if you don't follow him on Twitter, check him out. Dating to what?
I thought you were going to say don't.
Oh no.
Oh, you got something
I don't. Yeah, no. He's comes up with some good stuff. Dating to 2004, only SMU. This is part of his tweet. SMU in 2014 had given up 8 sacks to 3 straight. But why am I hearing myself? 3 straight Power 5 teams. Syracuse matched that mark against Pittsburgh. Most sacks allowed through 7 games by a Power 5 BCS team in the past 15 years. Wazoo with 32, they ended up 9-4. Stanford with 32, they ended up 1-11. UConn with 33, they ended up 3-9. Wazoo again with 35, they ended up 1-11. Notre Dame in 07 with 35, they finished 3-9. And Syracuse this year with 35, and still just under half the season to go. There's a couple more on there. Miami through 6 games this year has 28, but Syracuse has given up 35 sacks so far this season. They only gave up 37 the entire last year. So that's gonna be. I mean, you go 8 sacks, 9 sacks the last 3 games. I mean, this could get into the 60s at this point.
Yeah. Well, and that's why, again, Mike Baber said what he said. And, it's one of those things. He's never going to call a player out because, they are the family. They keep the stuff in family and stuff. But when you listen to his press conferences, I think he says some telling things that if you really kind of dig deep and think about it, I think he did it all in the offseason. I think he was kind of trying to downplay what the media was talking about and how you could definitely tell that there was areas that he definitely wasn't 100% confident about coming in.
Yeah.
And, then even this last one talking about, no job safe. And, he had a quote in there talking about hearts being in it and people being and playing unselfish and for the family and that kind of stuff. So again, that just tells me that there's still this team isn't as together as last year's was, and that could be a whole bunch of things. You get some unselfish players that, want to go out and make the big play instead of run their assignment and do the responsibility for the play. And you get some people that get down because of the expectations, and some of the players, like he said, hearts. When a coach comes out and says, their heart's got to be in it, that's telling me that he's got players where the hearts aren't in it.
Oh, absolutely, obviously.
And then.
Right.
And even after NC State, when he talked about we need the seniors to step up, we need our good players to step up. And I feel like, this might be a situation where this group of seniors might not be the best group of leaders. And sometimes that happens. They're not all going to be Dungies and Zaire Franklins and players like that. So I feel like there's still some internal on the field stuff that's kind of hindering these guys from actually getting better. That's why I think we keep seeing the same thing over and over and over again.
Yeah, well, it's time to make the change. I think maybe we'll see that against Florida State. Either that or he has a regroup and he gives these guys another shot. But if things are the same after that, expect some personnel changes, I think. And, like I said, what do you got to lose? Why the hell not?
Well, yeah, and I think that's...
Other than the red shirt thing, like you said.
Yeah, and again, that's what you also have to teeter with, too.
Yeah.
It's because if you still want to get the bowl game, you're going through what? You're talking 7 games at this point?
Yeah, you need to get 3 out of the next 5. And you got 3 games on the road against Louisville, Duke, and Florida State.
Right.
So
at some point with some of these redshirt guys, you probably got to figure, you got to get them in there, pull the plug instead of redshirt them, get them in there and get the experience now because the season didn't turn out the way that we thought it was. But at this point, it's kind of almost teetering toward kind of what they talk about with like insanity, like continually doing the same thing and expecting a different result. And at this point, he's got to do something to change something up.
Yeah.
He's got to.
Yeah, something's got to happen. So, anyway, any final thoughts on Pitt, Joe?
No. Pitt, yes. Kenny Pickett's pretty good quarterback.
He's a very good quarterback. Yeah, I was impressed.
Pretty good quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, I was impressed, man. He's definitely poised, and he's, I
don't know how many times you got to force a guy to his right and roll out and him make a pinpoint accurate throw. And
I know.
At some point, you got to, like what even the commentator said, at some point, you just got to build a wall to the left side so you can't roll out to the right and make him do something. But I tell you, when he got out of the pocket and even some of those quick throws, I mean, he was accurate. That touchdown, back shoulder touchdown against Bradshaw was really accurate. So he definitely he considering from where he was last year, he's made great strides. So kid's good.
Yep, not bad.
It's time to hear from you, the loudmouths from the Loud House.
All right, it's time to hear from you. It is fan feedback time. Go to the socials at Cuse Militia. Go there on Facebook and Twitter, and we'll propose the question at the end of every game. Thoughts on the game? You see that, and you give your thoughts on the game. Had I known Joe was going to be at his house, I did not think he was going to be there. We would have taken calls, but
my bad.
I didn't know, so we didn't. I assumed he was at his girl's house. So anyway, we got your comments, but first, remember, just use the promo code chair. Go to mybookie.ag. Use the promo code chair and get your first deposit doubled. Use the promo code chair, CHAIR, to activate that offer. Get your first deposit doubled up to $1,000. Promo code chair. Visit mybookie.ag today. You play, you win, you get paid. Thank you, mybookie. All right. So the socials were it was really tough to go through these, and for multiple reasons. For multiple reasons, not just like the negativity and stuff like that, but just there was a lot of one-line takes, a lot of snarkiness. So let's. So
it always gets worse as we go on losing streaks. So
I know it gets worse, and people's attitudes get worse, and it's just like, okay, all right. Well, anyway, if not now, when 84 anemic offense, too little, too late. 0-3 in ACC, not good, Bob. I'm a diehard, but I'm starting to lose faith. Injuries are killing this team. Maybe next year, apparently Michael from Canada.
Who's Bob?
Who's Bob? Who's Bob? Look, yeah, I don't think much is going to change with the offense. I think too little, too late at the end, but at least they gave it a valiant effort. I mean, like you said, Joe, teams in the past could have got smoked after going into the locker room down 24-6 and just coming back out and basically throwing their arms up, like their hands up, like, whatever.
And I can only assume that the main injury he's thinking about and talking about is the DeVito injury, because honestly, like I said, defense is still holding up, depending on, even though the injuries that we had, and the only offensive injury lineman that we've had is Sam Heckel. So, and again, I just don't think that he's the one that solves all the problems. So I'm assuming that he's referring to Tommy DeVito, and the fact of the matter is that people can bang on this kid all you want. You just threw out the stats about the historical sack number that our line is putting up.
Yeah, that's not Tommy DeVito's fault.
And on top of that, nobody knows what injury Tommy DeVito is playing through. So
yeah, he could have fractured
I think it's
ribs.
hard.
Who the hell knows?
Right, exactly.
So yeah, it is hard to, it's tough to give it accurate or, assessment on that. But Sam Heckel, not the magic puzzle piece that's just going to be put into place and have everything work either.
Right.
So it's just, that would be impossible, I think. And that's nothing against him. It's just kind of the reality. So at Tony Staffieri, our boy Tony. Let's think long term here. Injuries will heal up. 10 wins. Got us into the living rooms of better players last year. Does a 5-win season stunt recruiting? This 1 step forward, 2 step backward progression is not sustainable in the Power 5. And so, Joe,
sir,
private school, recruiting's tough enough as it is. You hear a lot of the, great programs don't just recruit 3-star players constantly, blah, 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 right? We've heard all that. So everything we can do to help recruiting is integral in building a team, and it's tough. And you kind of rely on the charisma of the coach, and you rely on, his system and who fits where and who wants to be here. So,
yeah, well, again, every recruit's particular. Every recruit has their own agendas and things that factor in their minds higher than others. And again, like we talked about, being a private school and in the Northeast where it's not, hot recruiting beds, we can say that there's a geographical thing with recruiting. We've talked about that before. But winning does change that. But again, it comes down, like
everything.
We talked about, the whole chicken and the egg thing. And really the fact of the matter is that, there's the perennial top 25 teams that you see year in, year out, the recruiting top 25 classes. And then there's all the other Power Fives that pretty much are made up of 3 stars that their success is usually pretty cyclical. They get a quarterback in and you end up getting some success and winning some games because you get some good players. And the next thing you know, you get some good recruits for a couple of years. And then you hope that maybe you can hit it right on the next quarterback. And that's kind of what happened with Dungy. You saw we got one right, and he got better. We grew the depth. We got a coach in with a different philosophy, and that's what happened last year. And now it's turnover, and it's just kind of what happens with teams like us. Like, we're not a big-time powerhouse team in the Power Five. We have history, yes. Do we have history? Yes. Was there times when we were great? Yes. But you have to be realistic of the times now, and that's just not what it is. And most teams that are in our situation are made up of 3 stars, in which their success is pretty cyclical. And you get a lot of games just like this, where if you miss on some special teams plays and you're having too many penalties and then you give up a trick play, you're most likely going to lose.
The same trick play 2 weeks in a row, pretty much.
Well, either way.
Take a look, just for instance, and I know I'm not telling most of the listeners anything here when I say this, but when we go into Florida State next week, just take a look at the atmosphere there and everything. Just that's the difference. That's the difference between a bigger program and being a state school, not a private school. It's a huge difference.
Well, and then you look at the amount of D1 recruits that come out of the state of Florida.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's endless.
So you bring a recruit from Florida up to Syracuse on an official visit, and he just went to Florida State the week before. And then he sees something like what, a lot of times happens with us, and that could be a heartbreaker too. I mean, it's not a deal breaker for all recruits, but like you said, I mean, that environment alone, I mean, that can do some things, And there's a lot of people, what comes first, chicken or the egg? What comes first? Winning your recruits. And as a fan base, you kind of want to probably do, if you want the recruits, then you should probably do the best that you possibly can to make it look like it's a destination that they want to come play for. I mean, that's not everyone thinks like that, but that's how I think. That's how you think, I believe.
Winning solves everything. Winning is the answer to everything. I don't even think – I understand that we have that argument. We had it a lot with butts in the seats for games in the past years. And winning solves everything, but you can't sustain wins when you're let's be honest. With the talent that's here, it's a young group. It's literally rebuilding the team. And we're just getting around to rebuilding it. The last couple years – have been a struggle, but we had the upperclassmen last year, and that was the difference. So we're basically
we've been running with Schaefer's upperclassmen. This Schaefer's guys have been our captains,
right? Yeah, exactly.
They were main players, and like you said, at the end of the day, yes, winning solves everything, but what does walking out when you lose solve? I just feel like you got to be able to take one on the chin and come back and hope that next week. Changes things, And I've always just been about the whole, what if stuff. You leave at halftime. What if they come back and they make that comeback and you left and you weren't there?
Close.
It's so, yeah, you always think about stuff like that. And I always look at it like 24-6 at halftime. That's still, it didn't look like it was going to be, but it ended up being a game.
It's not that terrible, though, in the long run. That's a lot of time in the whole half to make up that, and they had their opportunities, and maybe some of us feel that it was kind of we got ripped on that, but
I get
at the end of the day,
I get a blowout at like the end of the third quarter, fourth quarter. I get it, but
but I'm not. Yeah, and that's just a traffic beater.
That's
a traffic beater.
It is. Yeah,
So-
yeah, exactly.
So, Zach on Facebook says the Welch experiment shows that he may not be a long-term answer, but it's clear that with the worst O-line in the history of college football, you need a little hyperbole there, obviously, and the worst O-line in the
I don't
history
know.
of college football, you need a dual threat QB. If he could actually be accurate on those short throws, he'd be a hell of a quarterback. He makes great decisions with the ball and is very aware in the pocket. It just sucks so much that if we had a decent O-line and discipline this season would be completely different. This squarely falls on Dino. He has all the guys and staff in place. There's no depth along the line and no discipline whatsoever. So he goes on to say, I have full confidence DeVito would be climbing the record books with a good O-line behind him. Now, we have yet to see that, and that's a good thing about DeVito and the line, period, is that everybody there is going to be, with the exception of who? Ryan Alexander, what was he? Is he a junior?
No, he's a senior. Ryan
He's a
Alexander's a
senior.
senior,
Yeah.
and so is Evan Adams. And I want to say, like I said, Sam Heckel is. Who knows if he don't get another year? If he does sit out all year with medical, who knows?
Right. So, but we got guys coming up. Hopefully that's something that we can see is DeVito get some protection and see what he can do. But, the dual threat quarterback thing,
It's nice.
it's nice, but you know what, though? I mean, he's no DeVito, and I just don't – I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, it's awful gimmicky if you can't complete a pass or a throw.
Yeah, that's the thing. He's been playing quarterback for how long, and he was throwing stuff into the dirt 15 yards out. I mean,
right.
It could be nerves, it could be nerves. There's no doubt about that. But, you played quarterback since you were a kid, and this is what we're doing. So I'm just saying, I don't know if it could be fixed. That's all I'm saying. That's my point.
Right.
At biggest Cuse fan, I don't know about that. D played well as usual and kept them in the game. The O-line is just too much of a liability, and early drops really hurt. Yeah, that's very true. There was a couple of them. Gutsy comeback at the end. Like we said, I mean, that first drop by Tristan Jackson, not really characteristic of him to drop that, but could have been a touchdown. I mean, how would that have changed the face of that game? Could have been a touchdown if you caught that pass.
Yeah, no, it was funny because, like we talked about before in the pregame, we talked about trying to get it in the middle of the field and hit slants and stuff like that. And the first two plays were drop balls in those exact routes, and they were open. It didn't look like we tried to go back to those too much afterwards, but it's you gotta. I mean, that changes the whole first half, in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely. Obviously, it's not going to be
those couple plays right in the beginning to be able to sustain a drive and go down and get points, and you got to be able to do that. We can't wait so long. Can't wait for halftime to be able to figure out what they're doing to be able to put points up on the board.
What do you think about now? This could go either way. You can make an argument for both sides. What do you think about kicking the field goal at the 2-yard line?
At this point, anytime you get a chance to get points, you get points.
Okay, fair
because
enough.
if we kick that and then Schmidt kicks his field goal, then we need we're down one. That fumble were rough. We wouldn't even have needed a touchdown. We would have just needed
field goal,
run a couple plays, field goal, and So at this point, I mean, until we can get confidence in what we're doing, I say get the points whenever you can.
Yeah. Let's see. At Black Mamba 2711, I didn't envision the O-line being this bad. It has hampered DeVito's growth big time. And Jeff 418-53689, I think that's his phone number, for crying out loud, replied to him and said, "You nailed it. Feel bad for DeVito. He's a really good quarterback. He's being blamed for something he has no control over." So I thought this was good for us to just bring up some conversation about DeVito's growth, Joe. Two things. DeVito's growth. You can't grow if you don't have time to throw the damn ball. I guess it can toughen you up getting beat around like this, I suppose.
Right.
But the other thing is a lot of people, we saw, the calls for Welch, and we've been hearing this for a couple weeks now about how Tommy DeVito sucks. I don't know what we expect this kid to do. I don't know. He's not that mobile of a guy. He
Right.
has made some very bad decisions when you could tell he's like, there's a couple things he could do, and he just makes the wrong decision. And that's part of growth. So that's good to kind of get this stuff out of the way. Some of these things you only do once or twice maybe, But yeah, it's been tough for Tommy DeVito because of the protection he doesn't get.
Right.
So
I mean, you look at how many times he's got sacks. I can't even imagine how many times he's been hit.
Oh my gosh,
And,
I know.
Yeah. So again, he's probably already got hit a season's worth. So
Well, he almost has. He's almost been sacked a season's worth.
right.
Yeah, let alone being hit.
And hurried and everything like that.
And you saw the
again-
fight in him too when he lowered his shoulder to take out that safety. That was a stupid but ballsy move.
Yeah.
He was trying to make something happen, and deep in our own territory, he was trying to make something happen, and he flattened himself. So,
Yeah.
so
I'm just saying that's not his game.
no, it's not. It's not.
That's not his game. I mean, Dungy can get away with it. Welch, 6'5", 240.
Yeah, Welch,
Sure,
big dude.
If
Sure.
he wants to run around and get hit all day, that's fine.
He was roughed
He's gonna
up too a couple of times. Like we were
Oh
wondering.
yeah, he's gonna have to get better throwing the ball if it's even gonna be an option. But even in Baber's post conference, he said something about I know who's better.
Well, yeah,
it all
which is
depends on who's
DeVito.
healthy.
Sure.
It's right, and it's just not even. It's not even. I mean, last year we made a mistake, and this year it's not even close. It was not even close to the same comparison. So
You talking about for the game Tommy came in?
well, I'm just saying, between Dungy and all that talk between
Right,
Dungy and
right,
DeVito, and there was a little bit more. I mean, he came in and won a game and passed and threw the ball around, and this guy just ran around like basically Eric Dungy,
Yeah. It was Dungy-esque at moments.
and it almost worked.
I know.
That's the problem. That's the thing. Is it? Yeah, having a dual threat quarterback, it looks good, it helps, but it's not. It's not like sexy quarterback play. You know what I mean?
No, it's not.
It's
And, yeah.
ballsy kind of, and yeah, you look at last year, 10-3, and okay, DeVito came in and had some moments and some games and stuff, but think about how many times Dungy had a chance to get hit, and then that was it. That was the season.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have been 10-3. So
Right. So, anyways, I got one more. I think we get the gist. They're all pretty.
yeah,
They're all pretty close to
yeah.
this. Not at anywhere. Jeff G on Facebook. Opportunities lost. Another game. If the mistakes were cleaned up, that could easily been a win. And absolutely with the penalties. My gosh, the penalties. We had more penalties one game. A couple. What was it? Was it last game? Was it against NC State? I think it was against NC State. We had more penalties than we had points. For crying out loud.
Right. Well,
So-
and again, there's a lot of things that hid last year's the talent of the team. I don't think the team, so to speak, was as, I don't want to say as good as everybody, but the reasons why we had the season we had was because of all the little things. The turnovers, bend don't break, the sacks, not being penalized, being able to make the smart plays, those kind of things,
Yeah.
And then sometimes just the luck going your way, and then special teams and all the kicks that we made. I mean, all that stuff worked for last year to and the little things can turn around and it can make the last two games be wins instead of losses.
And can we win 3 out of the next 5? Yeah, we can. We can. We still can. Now, if we go to Florida State and we lose, it's bad. It's bad. Our bowl hopes are hanging by a thread right now. It's bad.
Can we? Yes, but we have to see dramatic change from certain situations, from certain places.
We have to see a consistency of something, and not just getting lucky and still getting sacked 8-9 times and just pulling out a win. I just don't think that that's the way it's going to happen. It's going to have to be systemic. It's got to be freaking the whole,
And as weird as it sounds, dude, in college sports that happens.
Yeah, I know.
I'm sorry. That's just it. It's just it happens. It's very easy to be yes. I mean, we can win some of these next games if we do all these things that we have proven that we can't do this year. So it's when you look at it as a fan, you you think there's no hope. There's probably fans that, like, I've saw some comments talking about, I believe I've just come to the conclusion that we've seen our last win this season already. Like, and talking about stuff like that. And based upon what you've seen so far this year, I can understand you, but I mean, teams do get better, and I do. Has
this O-line gotten better, Joe? Though, honestly, has this O-line gotten better? Has it gotten better? No, no. I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but it hasn't. It's actually might be getting worse.
I know. I'm saying I think the defense is
okay.
Parts usually teams they can get better. They usually do get better type stuff. But right. I think right now what you have to do, and like I think what Dino was basically hinting on is kind of hoping that games 4 through 6 this stuff was going to happen, and now that it hasn't, something's got to happen.
That was our window. Yeah, that was our window. We heard him talk about it, and I bought into it. And now that we're kind of still treading water in the same place where we were, it's maybe time to do something, and we'll see what happens. Who knows? There's hungry guys on the bench. That is pure, 100% pure motivation. Like, these guys want to step up. They want to step up. They want to do it. So that should give everybody at least some kind of hope. Something. Yeah. Gives me
and the
hope.
Majority, well, he knows the defense that he has, right? You see these teams in the ACC, a lot of them seem pretty much mediocre, right in the middle of the pack type stuff. They're beating each other up all over the place. This team's beating this team, and then they turn around and beat this team. It's inconsistent. It's very inconsistent. So, I mean, these last 2 games basically been the same loss. It's been basically deja vu. So,
yeah. Like I said, Groundhog Day, man.
So at this point, we're 3-4, and we need to change something because what we're doing against these other teams isn't working, and we have 5 games that we can still win on the schedule, but not the way that we've been playing.
And you got a top-notch defense who can hold their own probably against any team out there.
Yeah, and at this point, he can motivate the team.
Yeah, well,
before the game halftime, that he can do that. That he's a decent in-game coach.
They got to be buying in though, and when he starts talking about the heart of some players, you wonder if they're buying in.
It's which players? It's probably some of the players that he wanted to rely on, and some of the upperclassmen that he thought was going to be the cogs to this team, and maybe they're not stepping up, and he hasn't wanted to get rid of them because of possibilities of actually getting it gelled and the continuity and
like giving it
becoming.
A shot, sure.
Right, and now at this point, I think it is what it is at this point, and you got to make a change, otherwise it's going to be the same.
Yep. All right, well, that will do it, I think, for us. And, I hope that at the very least you can come here and just maybe vent with us or just see if...
That's all it is, it's venting.
See if maybe... look, when we're on here, I don't sugarcoat stuff because I don't believe it because I want to make you feel better. I'm just trying to be realistic. And it's easy to be negative, and I'm negative sometimes. I'm negative a lot, but that's why we don't do the show right after the game, right, Joe? I mean,
yeah, for the most part,
right?
Yeah.
It's a step back and take a look and just take it one game at a time. That's always been our philosophy here, taking one game at a time, whether it be basketball or football. So, you know what? It is what it is. We'll see what happens. And we'll be back here on Wednesday like we normally do to come and do the Florida State preview. So I want to thank my bookie. I want to thank all of you for listening. Thank you to everybody who went to fan feedback and did their thing there. If you love the show like Joe does, leave a 5-star review and leave a 5-star rating and a review. And if we read it on the air, we will. I'll send you a little swag, man. I got some koozies, got some other stuff. By the way, I don't think Baptized by Fire on iTunes. I read your review. If you're listening, hit me up. I'll check my email, but I do not think they emailed me. So anyway, yeah. Anyway, well, that's fine. By the way, downloads go down when we lose. People are trying to hear it when we lose a lot. So
yeah, that's true.
So anyway, but thank you to all of you. Thanks to James on guitar. For Joe, I'm Sean. We're out.
Thanks for listening to the Cuse Militia Podcast, the fan's voice with Sean and Joe.